What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mackenzie Erasmus. Good to see you guys. Today we are going to be reacting to some of the top viral videos with regard to real estate, and I am super excited to dive into these. I am super excited. By the way, if you're enjoying this content, I would so appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. That does help the channel and get us put in front of more people that we may be able to help entertain, as well as share some knowledge about the real estate market and help people make their real estate and their financial goals a reality. Please do like and subscribe. I would super appreciate it. All right, so let's dive in.
You should have a goal to buy 10 rental houses before their age of 30. Like, you really need to seriously look into that, because what happens is, it's like anything. It's like investing in the stock market, mutual funds, or anything like that, stock in your company. You're doing it for the long haul. So if you think about it and you can use your 20s to your advantage to leverage yourself, you got to think about, if you purchase 10 houses, literally by the time you're 21, 22 years old to the time you're 30, 32, 33, and you don't touch those properties, well, in 10, 15, 20 years, those properties are going to be paid for. You're going to be able to depreciate those properties off your taxes, which you pay less money in taxes to the government. The value of the property actually goes up. Someone else is paying you, so you can pay the mortgage on those properties, and then you're left with something that you got to depreciate that went up in value that someone else helped you pay for. The biggest mistake I made with real estate is not starting soon or not buying enough. I would tell everybody, if you're going to buy real estate, or if you're going to start investing in real estate, it's like anything. It's like when you're saving money, you're investing money, you're putting money in the stock market or mutual funds or whatever it may be. Time is at your advantage. So
guys, it's easy. What are you doing? Just buy 10 houses when you're 21 or 22. Then it's going to be easy. Okay, what Jeff Bridges here doesn't understand is that there is such a affordability problem. It is so expensive to be able to buy a house. Now, yes, there are absolutely tools at your disposal, but you're not, for the average 20 or 21-year-old, they can barely afford rent, let alone buying 10 houses. So if you're lucky enough and you knew when you were in preschool that you're gonna need to invest in real estate, great. But for the rest of us, we have to be strategic and intentional with getting our first rental property or our first real estate property in general. And no, that doesn't mean just, foregoing your morning Starbucks. It's so much more beyond that. It's a long-term play, and knowing the tools that are at your disposal to then eventually get into a property, get into a house. And there are those tools at your disposal to help bring down the cost of doing so.
Other carriers where you basically ask the seller to be the bank. Say you're buying a house for $300,000. You say, I'm going to put $150,000 down, but I want $150,000 carry. So you get $150,000 cash. Maybe you don't need all the money today. Can I pay you the rest later? And I'll give you interest on that $150,000. Maybe you negotiate a 6 or 7 or 8% rate, something comparable or a little less than you can get on the free market, but you're getting all of your purchase price done, and you can make interest payments to that seller. And once you fix up the house or eventually sell it or refinance it, you pay them off. They're happy. They're made whole plus their interest.
Okay, so what this is referring to is seller financing. What it can be used for is A, when it's not necessarily an arm's reach transaction where the parties know each other, or B, maybe the buyer has some adverse credit or can't get an actual mortgage out from the bank and purchase it using the more traditional means. What this video doesn't address is a couple of things. One is risk, where if you were to miss any payment, seller has full permission to evict you because they still own it. While you're making payments to the seller, they still own their property, and they can kick you out at any point if you miss one payment. There are no eviction protections when it comes to seller-inspired financing or seller financing. You're also not gonna get a mortgage for 30 years. Joe Blow down the street is not going to just give you a 30-year payment plan. Oftentimes there's a 3 to 5 year payment plan and then a balloon payment, so a huge payment for the remainder at the end. And if you can't afford to make that balloon payment, or you can't afford to refinance out of it, you're going to be in serious trouble. So it's really a case-by-case scenario in which I say it may be a good option for you. Generally speaking, though, you want to go the traditional route, 15 or 30 year fixed rate mortgage, and then you'll have all of the potential protections that you would get by going that route.
Do you want to be a millionaire? Then do this. Instead of moving out to an overpriced apartment like this one, stay living with your parents as long as you can, and if that's not possible, move in with a friend. Remember, the goal is to save up as much money as you can. Instead of going out for dinner all the time or ordering Uber Eats, Eat at home.
Can we just stop this whole, stop going out to restaurants or stop ordering Starbucks and then you'll be able to buy a house? Not only is that framing very demeaning, it's just totally out of touch with what it actually means to buy a house and what type of investment that means. Yes, could you be more intentional with your spending? Sure, but that doesn't mean that you're then going to be able to put down 20, 50K on a house. What they really should be saying is they should be saying coming with a investment plan, coming with a financial plan to get to your goals down the road and figure out when you want to be in a house buy and then reverse engineer it and use the math accordingly. Not just, hey, stop wasting your money on your Frappuccino. Love me a good Frappuccino.
Don't waste your money on useless crap you do not need. Instead, educate yourself on how to master the actual business that'll increase your income.
Take all the money that you've been saving, trust me, it adds up fast, and put it in an investment account.
Same argument.
Next, once you've saved enough, buy a revenue property. Then buy another, and another, and another. You're a millionaire and you're set for life.
So once you've saved it up, meaning if you're buying a revenue property and it's an investment property and you're not living in the property, you're going to be looking at least 20%. So do the math there.
For more real estate facts and tips, follow me on TikTok and Instagram.
Okay, so this is just frankly out of touch with what actually people are experiencing. I don't discredit her. She's obviously very successful and that's amazing. That being said, if you are going to actually use an investment account to use that as your property, there's so many things you have to keep in mind. You have to then know about capital gains tax. If you have it for less than a year, there's short-term capital gains, which are even higher than long-term. And that's a lot of money that you would potentially be losing to taxes as well. Again, it goes back to having a plan and an investment strategy so that when you get to the point where you want to have a home buy, you have the current financial ability to do so. It's not just as easy as stop going out to eat, putting money in an investment account, and then a year later you've got enough money to purchase it. I do think you can certainly use investments and put money into stocks in order to save up money, but just knowing the full picture is going to be very important.
Down, I'll never be able to buy a home. Why do you want to buy a home so badly? You're joking, right? If you're renting, you're an idiot loser who throws money into a black pit. Everyone says so.
By the way, there is definitely that, especially from, let's just call a spade, like the boomer generation. A lot of times they're like, what do you mean you're not buying a home, that you're just wanting to rent, that this is the biggest investment? Side note, you can absolutely build wealth and you can absolutely have a good life without buying a home. There are absolutely benefits to do that, but it's not like the only thing or the end all be all that will make your American dream a reality. By the way, I do love Vivian. This is not me crapping on her. It's more crapping on the kind of the general consensus, the vibes, if you will, of what a lot of younger millennials and Gen Z people are going through.
Who's everyone? Mathematically, it's smarter to rent than buy in all 50 of the largest US metros. Any money you'd save by renting, you could invest into other things.
That is true in that, yes, mathematically speaking, it's more economical to rent and invest the difference rather than purchase a home, because the appreciation will be less than what you would get in the stock market. The one kicker with that is that it does assume that you are investing the difference. I'm sure there are some Gen Zers and younger millennials that are investing it, but more often than not, it becomes a cash flow thing where you're not going to necessarily take that and invest it into the market.
Well, Dave Ramsey said, I have to buy a house. Dave Ramsey is also a dinosaur. In 1990, when he was 30, the minimum wage was $3.80. In 2025, you're 30, and the minimum wage is $7.25. So the minimum wage has roughly doubled, but the median housing price in his home state of Tennessee back in 1990 was $58,000. In 2025, the median list price in Tennessee is $423,000. So wages have been multiplied by 2, but housing has been multiplied by more than 7. You see how the math isn't mathing, right?
Yeah, that basically sums it up. Wages have not kept up with the appreciation and cost of the houses. With that, I don't anticipate house prices coming down. You just have to figure out, okay, when is the best possible time for me to get into the property ladder and then start riding that roller coaster, if you will, because eventually, right, if you were to zoom far enough out, they are going to continue to rise. They might come down, but they'll eventually, over the long term, end up being worth more than what you purchased it for. All to say, use the resources that you have available. There are so many different programs for first-time home buyers. If you are a move-up buyer, meaning you have your first house, but then you're wanting to get into a bigger house, or maybe you're going from a townhome to a single family because your family is expanding, whatever your current situation is, utilize the tools that are at your disposal. Once you get in, you have way more opportunities for leverage, you have way more opportunities and tools at your disposal to be able to utilize, which is why that first investment is so crucial to getting in. And there are programs available, from a program called Home Ready, Home Possible, which has lower rates and lower down payment options. There's down payment assistance. There's even some grants, which grants, by the way, are free money. You do not have to pay those back. Now, there are some also loans as well that then you would pay back on the sale. I mean, every situation is going to be different. It depends on what you qualify for, and I would speak to a trusted loan officer that you have in your world to be able to figure out what options there are for you. But it's so important to at least just get in and utilize the tools at your disposal, and then over time you will end up having more options.
Wait, so I don't need to buy a home to be a real adult? If you're buying a home solely for financial reasons, especially just because someone else thinks you should, it probably doesn't make sense.
Yes. This is the one thing where sometimes I'm talking to, especially first timers, they're always thinking about it in terms of an investment. And yeah, it's true. This is an investment, and this is probably going to be your biggest investment that you're going to make at least for a while. But we're not talking about just a 401k. We're not talking about profits and losses. This is also your home. This is where you're going to be. This is where you're going to have game night, or where you're going to host Thanksgiving. It goes so much more beyond that. I really appreciate Vivian. If you're not following her, you absolutely should.
And these days, buying a home is a lot more about wanting to paint the walls, put down roots, and build memories in one place, and that's okay. Not every decision has to be a financial one. But let it be known, if we're only looking at the numbers, no one would be buying houses. Don't get duped by financial gurus who are out of touch. I'm Vivian, your rich BFF, and your favorite Wall Street girly who has the financial credentials to prove it. If you want to learn more about your money, follow me.
Yeah, so again, you absolutely should be following her if you haven't already. And when you're listening to people that aren't necessarily in touch with what the actual lived experience is, it can be very frustrating. That being said, there are those of us that are younger that are living that life with you, and so we know the challenges that you're going through. And find somebody that is an empath that you connect with. They can make your dreams a reality. I know that's, for me, my biggest why is helping make people make their financial goals a reality. And it's just through real estate that I do that.
Prices are going to continue to go up
we got
because there
Dave
continues to be
Ramsey.
a shortage of housing. We've got a supply-demand curve, basic 7th grade econ issue. We've got a greater demand than we have a supply. And that puts upward pressure on pricing 100% of the time. You cannot get away from that. There's no sophisticated analysis that makes that go away. So house prices have continued to climb, even though the market has kind of sat in a doldrums, but the prices have not, we're willing to wait on houses to come down. They're not coming down. They're not. Okay, so what are we going to, well, we buy the house, we marry the house, we date the rate.
Okay, so this has been a fairly common talking point, the marry the house, date the rate. It's interesting that it comes from Dave Ramsey, of all people, who talks about all the time the emotional component, not getting too much in the emotional component, and not over leveraging yourself to the point where you're going to be making poor choices. It's kind of the pot calling the kettle black in that sense. I appreciate Dave for what he has from a financial aspect, but we'll see what he has to say with the rest of this.
So you go ahead and get the house. If you're out of debt, you have your emergency fund, you're ready to put down a down payment, and you can buy a house, buy a house. It's not going down. And then if rates go down,
if rates go down,
you can refinance. The way you decide to refinance is just a break-even analysis, and you know this from accounting, is you just say, okay, if I go from a 6% rate, which is of this recording is about what the rate is, and it goes down to 4, okay, and it's $200,000, well, that's $4,000 a year savings, 2% a year on $200,000. Savings, I say $4,000 a year, it costs me $8,000 to refinance. Oh, that's a 2-year break even. I'm going to be in the home longer than 2 years. Everything after 2 years is gravy on the biscuit. Until then, I'm just making up my costs. And so you do refinance then. But if you have a 9-year break even, you don't do it, because the average home mortgage in America over the last 50 years is 5.5 years from resale or refinance, one of the two. And so even though they're 30-year mortgages, 15-year mortgages, they don't last that long.
Okay, so what he's not acknowledging at all is the fact that what happens if you are over leveraging yourself. Marry the house, date the rate. In principle, what that means is like, hey, you can always renegotiate the rate in which you are paying interest on your mortgage. That is true. You can always go back to the bank, and whatever the current interest rates are, you can refinance it. Now, there are costs associated with that, but then that's where he gets into the break-even point. What he doesn't acknowledge is what happens if you're buying a home at a rate that you really would be over leveraging yourself at. There were so many people that use that talk track, and I'm kind of calling out other realtors and lenders here where they were saying, oh, marry the house, date the rate, just you can refinance later. Well, what happens if rates are elevated and now they're paying a 7%, 7.5% interest rate percent, and they are absolutely house poor. It is so important to assume when you are purchasing a house that I am signing up for this for however long I have it. The average mortgage is held anywhere from 5 to 8 years, so maybe around 6 to 7. So you don't typically hold it for 30 years or however long the term is, but still, nonetheless, you have to assume that it's going to be the same interest rate. It's one of the challenges that I have with the 2-1 buydowns or 3-2-1 buydowns, where you're having a lower interest rate for the first couple years. Well, for any people that went into that at the end of 2023 or any time now that we've had these elevated rate environments, the chickens are coming to roost. Is that the saying? You are now out of that promo period, whatever it is, and now you're going to be paying whatever rate you actually signed up for. So it's just so important that people look out for themselves, look out for their future selves, and say, hey, I don't think this is something that I should be signing up for. Okay, all right. Well, that's it for today. I really appreciate you taking the time. This was very interesting. Hopefully you guys learned something. Again, please be sure to like and subscribe. What do you think? What are the biggest out of touch points that people have? What are you seeing that's viral that you're like, I don't think that's actually legit. I want to have Mackenzie react to it. I would be more than happy to take a look at it at one of our next couple videos. If you're enjoying this, you should take a look at this video. And I really appreciate you guys. All right, thanks so much. Peace.